All right. Here we go on a Sunday morning in Las Vegas. Just after 8 o'clock, I'm Brian Feldman, and this is Out of Line. We are here live same time every Sunday on Fox Sports Radio 98.9 FM and 1340 AM, flagship of the Vegas Golden Knights. We're coming to you live from the Wisden, also known as Spencer's Studio in Las Vegas. We are here because, as you have heard many times, we've been booted from the Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio until further notice due to COVID. I did it. Due to COVID
It was only a matter of time.
COVID protocol. It was, man. You got to mess that. That you just heard him here with me in studio is our social media director, Spencer the Wiz Ostrovsky.
Nobody beats the Wiz. Nobody beats the Wiz.
That's right. The Wiz has his own theme music. Well deserved. Also, with us social distancing back in the Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio is producer extraordinaire Chris Magnum Chapman. Mags, also, you've heard him many years. I should say since they've been in existence on Vegas Golden Knights radio, UNLV football, and all over many shows, including the main hockey show at Fox Sports Radio. Mags helps us out. And also joining the show in a little while, my friend and longtime sports broadcaster here in Northern California, host of the TC Martin Show, TC Martin himself, and we will be talking about a real good friend of ours. As I said, the rest of this month, every show I'm going to dedicate a little bit to Ballpark Frank Harnish, a good friend of a lot of ours at Lotus Broadcasting, and anyone in the broadcasting community, especially sports related in the Las Vegas area, knows who Frank Harnish is. And like I said, Frank would hate this, as he would want no attention called to him like this. So Frank, you know me, and I'm a sarcastic you know what, so I'm going to keep doing it. Anyways, listen, the show's also streaming on the LV Sports Network, and you can watch the show on Facebook Live and YouTube. The page is called Outta Line. That's OUTTALINE. You can follow the show on Instagram and Twitter. That's at Outta Line Fox LV. And since we are live, your calls are welcome. The Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio line is 702-876-1340.
Hi, this is Bubby, and it's time for What's on Tap.
Tap is brought to you by title sponsor Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. Right now, Residential Bancorp offering $2,500 free in closing costs to anyone and everyone that qualifies for a home purchase loan in the state of Nevada. Call 702-964-5720 for information. Once again, Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. On tap, well, the Vegas Golden Knights, after looking really strong, coming off two big wins Friday night. I don't want to say they laid an egg, but didn't look great in their loss to an under 500 Philadelphia Flyer team, and they're going to have to rebound quickly. Tonight at 6, they will be hosting the Minnesota Wild, best team record-wise in the Western Conference right now. So that'll be an interesting game. We'll talk about that during Nightcap, and Mags will join us for that segment. Also, as I mentioned, TC Martin of the TC Martin Show is going to be joining the show. We'll talk a little bit about Frank Harnish, maybe some UNLV sports, maybe some Raiders. We'll see what we feel like talking about when it comes to that. Speaking of UNLV, yeah, they've won their last two basketball games, expected to win them both, but last night, big-time performances by their star Bryce Hamilton and transfer star Donovan Williams, both having over 30-point games. Basically, between the two of them, they accounted for over 2/3 of the scoring of the Running Rebels, and really like what I see Kevin Kruger doing. We'll talk about the Running Rebels. Also, the Raiders 6-6, man. After starting real strong, 3-0 this year, 1 and I believe 5 in their last 6 games. That's tough, and it is going to be tough as they've lost a couple now. Tough games last week, a real close one to the Washington football team, but again on the road in KC to play the division leading and AFC reigning champion Kansas City Chiefs, man. We'll talk about that. I know Spencer's got some things to say about that and how he feels that game will go, maybe how Rich Bisaccia is doing in the interim job, and if he'll keep it at the end of the season. We already know our opinions on that. Also, week 14 in the NHL, some really good matchups. Tampa Buffalo should be real good, and maybe the best Monday night matchup of the year tomorrow between the Cardinals and the Rams, although the Rams kind of slide. We'll see if Matthew Stafford can pick that up. All that and more is still coming up. That is what is on tap. Once again, brought to you by title sponsor Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time, and again offering $2,500 guaranteed free grant to anyone and everyone that qualifies for a home purchase loan in the state of Nevada. Call 702-964-5720. Spence, let's get right into it. I'll say hello to everyone, but let's get right into a nightcap.
Hockey players, as you know, are warriors. They don't give up. They come to play every game.
It's time for Nightcap, a cupful of the Vegas Golden Knights. From highlights to interviews to special events, the puck starts here.
They have not won since until tonight. The 10-game losing streak is over for the Flyers. Carter Hart, terrific in net.
Mags, the Flyers are on a 10-game losing streak. They started looking like they might be okay this year. They've looked like garbage lately, but they didn't look like garbage last night. I will say Carter Hart played terrific in net. There were a lot of chances that he stopped that could have been goals and would have been goals maybe if he wasn't having the kind of night he was having. But still, you got to beat the Philadelphia Flyers, especially when, right now, 10th place in the Western Conference. I don't think it's big concern. I think Robin Leonard will do a fine job in net, and I love seeing the way Pacioretty has performed since he's come back. I think 14 points in 9 games, 9 goals in that same span, 2 again on Friday night. But, Chris, this team has got to play with some consistency, and games at home against the Flyers, maybe they look past them a little bit. I don't think that was the case. Again, I think great goaltending by Philadelphia, but you got to win those games.
Well, yeah, there was some concern from Pete DeBoer. Actually, I was the one who asked him on Friday morning about it potentially being a trap game, and Pete said, yeah, there's definitely such a thing as a trap game in the NHL. And he was going to rely on his leaders to kind of get that message across to the younger players. Well, I guess the message really didn't get across because your penalty kill was abysmal for the second game in a row. In fact, it cost you now a game. You were lucky against Dallas because despite being 0 for 3 on the penalty kill, you found a way to come back and win that one. They were abysmal again against the Flyers. That cost them the game. It's funny. They gave up a 4-on-4 goal, which I know doesn't count as a penalty kill, or a special teams play, but it's 4-on-4. And the other issue is your power play has been, when it looked like they were turning the corner, now they're back to where they were a few weeks ago, where they just look completely inept. Pete made the comment after the game that he was more concerned about the penalty kill than he was about the power play. I think he probably has a very fair point when he makes that comment, because the last couple games, your penalty kill, which is normally one of the best in the league, hasn't looked so hot. And he was not happy with the goaltending. I think Laurent Brossoit probably would like to have a few of the. You know what? I shouldn't even say that. I think every goalie always likes to have them back, but I think Laurent Brossoit was not sharp. He played really well this season when called upon. And
hey, Chris, real quick,
I
just want to say one thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Brossoit, watching the 4 goals that Philly scored, you can comment on this. I really thought 3 of them were really tough goals to stop. One of them I thought he should have made the save on, but I really thought the 3 that went in, because of the position he was in, because of the traffic in front of the net, I'm not going to say those were gimme goals in the National Hockey League.
Well, no, but I do think that some of them were goals that National Hockey League goalies should save. And here's the thing. I'm not going to pile on the backup goalie who played in his second consecutive game. Laurent Brossoit has played as good as anyone could have expected when he's been in there. So, there was one game, I think it was against Detroit, where he played, and look, it was just a game where the Golden Knights played really well, and Detroit happened to just put a couple in. But I think other than that game, Laurent Brossoit has been fantastic. He's definitely earned what they paid him to be the backup goalie. He's one of the better backup goalies in the league. So one off night from him, I'm not going to pile on. Look, it's not his fault that the team lost the other night. It's not Robin Leonard's fault that the team fell behind to Dallas twice by multiple goals on Wednesday night. So the thing is, the team needs to play better. That's the reality of it. I feel like they're becoming a little too reliant on Max Pacioretty on the power play, Because look, Max is on fire. 9 goals in his last 9 games. He's been absolute fire when he's been on the ice this season. But when you watch that power play, it seems like there's not a lot of urgency outside of when Max gets the puck. And it seems like they're trying very hard just to get Max the puck. Shea Theodore needs to up his game a little bit, and I think he knows that. I don't feel like he's been at his best this season. The other guy who I'll just point out, every time I watch him, I come away absolutely impressed, is Alex Petrangelo. He was a guy who last year, I think some of us in the media and some of the fans were very hard on, right? This is the highest paid guy on the team. He was your crown jewel of your free agency class the year before. He didn't meet expectations. And look, there's no excuses. And Alex seems like the kind of guy who's going to tell you there's no excuses. But we saw it with Pacioretty his first year. There's a transition when you are the captain of another club and you move to a team. There's that comfort level. Then he broke his wrist. He got COVID. But by the playoffs last year, Alex Petrangelo was the best player on the Golden Knights. I'm putting it out there right now. So far in 2021, and this is not a knock on anyone else. I mean, look, Chandler Stevenson has had a phenomenal season for the Golden Knights, but Alex Petrangelo has been the best player night in and night out for the Golden Knights, and I don't even feel like it's debatable.
You know, Chris, I couldn't echo your sentiments anymore, man, not to jump on the same bandwagon, but, you know, a lot of people, when you look at the Vegas Golden Knights and you say their best player and you look at stats-wise, and especially last year in the regular season and the year prior, you would say, well, Mark Stone is the best player on this team. He's got the we're in the sea. We all know of his struggles right now, and nobody's in his head more than himself trying to turn this thing around. Maybe there's some issues we don't know about, but, you know, you want to see Mark Stone successful, and as a matter of fact, without question, make no mistake, he has to be successful for this team to make any kind of run in the playoffs. They are going to need Mark Stone to step up his game and get to the top level that we know he's capable of playing at. And, of course, Pacioretty, like you said, Chris, it's been a blessing to see this guy come back from injury and just not only pick up where he left off, but actually exceed where he left off. And just an offensive juggernaut right now to this point, 9 games in to his season, has really been incredible. But you are absolutely correct. Alex Petrangelo is the best player on this team, deserves to be paid the most money. We have seen it. How many times do you see this guy setting up a goal? I mean, he is constantly in the right place at the right time, and he'll block shots. He will do what it takes. I don't know that there is a better two-way defenseman in the National Hockey League than Alex Petrangelo. I'll say this, there might be a few as good. I'm not saying he's the best, but he is among the best. And right now, as Chris said, the best player on the Vegas Golden Knights. Make no mistake, what a move it was getting this guy. And I can't wait to see Jack Eichel healthy and on the ice, because with him, Petrangelo, you've got 2 of the best players at their position in the National Hockey League playing on the same team. Those are 2 bona fide all-star hockey players.
I don't think people should panic because the team right now is not where people predicted them to be preseason. Look, this team is I'm going to put it out there. When they get Jack Eichel back, they are, and I'm not going to say, like, oh, this is the Chapman guarantee. They are the best team in the NHL when Jack Eichel gets on the ice, because he is going to change things so much that this team right now is going to look 100 times better when they get Jack Eichel out there. Look, I mean, that's right now, you stay above water, you stay in striking distance, but Tampa, and this will resonate. The last 2 teams, and I know Tampa's gone back-to-back, but the St. Louis Blues, they won the Cup 3 seasons ago. They were in last place on New Year's Day. They won the Stanley Cup. They made the coaching change, the whole Gloria thing. Alex Petrangelo was a part of that, ironically. And then you look at Tampa last season. They had a ton of injuries. They finished 3rd in their division, and they were by far and away the best team. And it was clear when they won the Stanley Cup. I think the Golden Knights right now are very similar to those 2 teams in that, yeah, they're probably not where you would have expected a Stanley Cup winner to be at this point in the season. But the Golden Knights have dealt with unbelievable adversity. They have had more injuries than any team I can think of off the top of my head at this part of the season. Sure, over the season, every team's going to deal with injuries. But to go through as much as this team has had to go through in the first 9-10 weeks of the season is unheard of. When Jack Eichel gets on the ice with the Golden Knights, they are the best team in the NHL. That doesn't guarantee you're going to win a Stanley Cup, but on paper, Colorado, not there. Tampa, not there. The Golden Knights will be the team to beat when they get a fully healthy Jack Eichel.
You would think so, Chris. I mean, talent-wise, as you said, especially Shea Theodore starts playing the way he's capable of playing. You get Martinez back and healthy, one of the best, known as one of the best shot blockers in the National Hockey League. He is so good in front of the net. He's like a second goalie out there, and you can't emphasize how much he means to this team. And then again, Carlson back and now scoring another goal last night, getting his second of the season. Chandler Stevenson, as we see, has developed into a very solid NHL player, and I do like the outlook of this team, but you mentioned Tampa not there, but Tampa's a team that could turn it on at any time. And mentioning that, the Vegas Golden Knights now, after tonight, they've got to play the Minnesota Wild. That is going to be really, to me, a telltale sign to see how they can come back from that loss against Philly and then play the best team in the conference, one of the best teams in the National Hockey League right now, and see how they do. And then, of course, 4 games on the road. It'll start against the Boston Bruins on Tuesday night, and it'll end next Sunday against the New York Islanders, and then they come home to face the 2-time reigning the Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning. So this next week is really going to be some tough road to haul for the Vegas Golden Knights, and we'll see how they do. I look forward to it, but I think, like you said, Chris, I don't think anybody should panic out there. This team knows how to win, and they definitely, most of these guys have plenty of postseason experience, and that's what you play for anyways. And this team was due to face some adversity. I mean, it has been a charmed life for the Vegas Golden Knights through their first 4 seasons, and now you face some adversity and you see how you come back from that. I do think they'll be fine. They will make the playoffs, and they are a team that nobody is going to want to see in the postseason if they are healthy and have everybody on the ice. Trust me on that. Hey, let's move on to the next segment. I've been waiting for this also. I want to get my friend and longtime sportscaster, Northern California, here in Las Vegas, his own show. I'm sure you've heard it 2 to 4 weekdays every day on KSHP 1400 and on tcmartin.com. TC is going to join the show. The last couple of years, he has had a very good friend of ours, Frank Harnish, known as Ballpark Frank to many of us. Frank, of course, was the voice of the Vegas Insider Show, the first ever show of the Vegas Golden Knights, which continues on today. And Frank was a part of the team that did the pregame and in between periods and postgame show for the Vegas Golden Knights the first 2 seasons they were here. Frank passed away a little over a week ago, and it's just been kind of a whirlwind. We all knew Frank had been sick the last month and a half or so, and got a chance to talk to Frank a couple of times. Also, like I said, the last time I communicated with was on Thanksgiving, and he'll be sorely missed, man. Just a great guy in the community. And Frank was Mr. Sports in Las Vegas. Never shied away from talking about his. I'm adjusting my Detroit Lions hat, thinking of Frank up there, and he'd be adjusting his Chicago Bears hat right now. But TC, welcome to the show, man. Great to have you on, my friend.
Hey, great to be with you, Brian.
It was so cool when things kind of went south for Frank where he was. I don't want to talk a lot about that negative and stuff, but TC, you jumped right on it. You contacted Frank, and we all know Frank was kind of down because Frank lives for this, man, lives to talk about sports on the radio. And I've got a lot of friends with sports knowledge, you being one of them with great sports knowledge. Frank Harnish might have had as good a sports knowledge as anybody out there.
Yeah, and was well-rounded sports knowledge as well too. And I think a lot of people, fail to realize, if you've been around Las Vegas a long time, you realize Frank knows all sports because he used to, do a variety of different sports, talk shows. But over the last 4 or 5 years, most people know him, like you mentioned, for the Golden Knights. And, kind of a funny story about that, in our building, going back to 2017 when, the Golden Knights were coming to town, and they were trying to produce a insider show and find a host for the pre, post, and intermission report. There wasn't a bunch of people that were really that knowledgeable about hockey. And Frank would wear his Blackhawk shirt, around the office, a couple times a week. And management said, "Hey, you're always wearing your Blackhawk stuff. You must know hockey. You're our guy." And the funny thing about that is, Frank would be the first to tell you that he wasn't that knowledgeable about hockey. He loved hockey like he liked all sports. But what impressed me the most is that once he got that gig, he dove into it head first, and he show prepped like you would not believe each and every day. Because I mean, none of us, again, you're dealing with an expansion team. You're really not following the NHL that closely. You're here in Las Vegas, and no one has really covered hockey, on a regular basis. And Frank just dove into that right away. And then whether it was the pregame show, the daily show, I mean, he would have notes after notes after notes, and it sounded like this guy's been covering hockey for 20 plus years. And that's what I appreciate about him, because whatever he put his mind to, he was going to go full force with it.
TC, really good point. I mean, Frank, and also he was a sponge. I mean, when Frank wanted to learn something, he just did it. He just had a desire to be as good as he can be. And like TC said, doing a number of shows with Frank, myself, having him on and getting a chance to do Rebel Extra, and we filled in for Cofield and company occasionally over. And he just came with a whirlwind of notes and just was ready to go. And as you mentioned, it is laughable because Frank, like I said, hockey wasn't his favorite sport. He loved his Blackhawks, but man, when he got into it, when he got that gig, you are 100% right. He was all about the Vegas Golden Knights, learning everything he could, and just became a whirlwind of knowledge. And then he gets into this unfortunate car accident, like all things. He gets his dream job, TC, and as we all know, and then we hear he gets into an accident that almost kills him. And I mean, I never saw a guy fighting harder. He didn't want to get better to get better. He wanted to get better to get back on the Golden Knights broadcast. I mean, that was really like his motivation to get healthy. Every time I talked to Frank when he was out with that accident, that's all he talked about. I got to get back on the air. I got to get back to the Knights game. I'm like, Frank, you need to get healthy, brother,
Yeah. Well, I was going to say it's a funny story, but it was kind of a sad story. He was on his way to go do the show at a remote location. The Golden Knights had an away game, and he got T-boned, unfortunately, and it was a very serious accident. I mean, he could have died from that. Actually had a severe, neck injury where they had to, input screws, into his neck, and he was in a neck brace, as you remember, for a very long time. And as he was being carted to the hospital in the ambulance, he started to get up, and they go, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you doing? He goes, I got to go do this show. He goes, I've got a Golden Knights game. They go, sir, you're not going anywhere. You're going to the hospital. And then 48 hours later, this guy is leaving the hospital and going back home. I didn't even get a chance to go visit him, because by the time I got the information where you're at and, okay, is it safe to come see you? He's out. And he goes, no, I'm going back home. And he's recuperating. Next thing you know, a week later, he's back at the office. He's in the neck brace and everything. And management was saying, no, you got to slow your roll here, Frank. You're not ready yet. And he pushed it. And, I think it was, less than 2 months later, he was back on the road doing the show and back at T-Mobile Arena again.
Listening to Out of Line on Fox Sports Radio. I'm joined right now by TC Martin of the TC Martin Show. You can hear him every weekday, 2 to 4. Great show, some incredible guests. Follow him on Twitter at TC Martin21, and of course TCMartin.com. You can hear him all over the globe. TC, whenever I think of Frank, like I just think of no nonsense. And Frank is just going to tell you like it is. And but the one thing is, when you think of guys like Frank, rough around the edges, you don't think of a lovable, approachable guy. Frank was one of the most approachable people I've ever known. He just wanted to talk about anything. He'd blow your mind occasionally, like mine, tennis. I mean, this dude, it was just hilarious. His knowledge of tennis was just so vast. It's like, okay, Frank, I'm not even getting in the ring with you on this one.
Yeah, he had a love for tennis, and just not, just the major tournaments and the men's, the women's. And I remember him always talking about, going to the Red Rock, for, one of the minor tournaments that would come through Las Vegas. And he was so excited. And, actually, Frank, had a very good tennis career. He played earlier. He played in high school, and, later played racquetball and tried to play as much tennis as he possibly could. He loved the racket sports, and he loved talking about it. And it's just not that, Brian. I mean, he loved talking about the Olympic sports. I mean, once the Olympics rolled around, he loved that as well. And, and going back to, getting that job with the Vegas, Golden Knights and the Insider Show and the pre-post and intermission report, I remember, when I asked him to fill in for me when I would go on vacation, And then, when he came to join me after, he left Lotus, we both left, and he just jumped at the opportunity because he goes, I love this because now I get a chance to talk about all sports, because a lot of people thought that he was pigeonholed into just hockey. And like you said, if you've known Frank for any, sort of time, that this guy has been doing sports for 20 plus years. But, for the most part, the last, 3-4 years, he was just doing hockey only. So when he came over to join me, for the last year and a half, he loved talking sports. And it was one of these things where he was one of the greatest tag team partners that I could have, because he was a pro. And that's what I appreciate about him. I mentioned his show prep and all that stuff, but just his knowledge of all of these other sports was fantastic. I mean, he didn't need to show prep. He would say, hey, what do you got planned for today? And I would tell him, and it's not like we needed, an hour show prep meeting, or we need to exchange notes like a lot of, hosts and co-hosts do. Just whatever I was going to talk about that day, or whatever guest that I was bringing on. I mean, he could just jump right in. Never, spoke over each other, and we had a great chemistry. We had a great flow, and it was just so enjoyable. And I think it came across the air that way.
Oh, there's no question. The knowledge between the two of you, man, I really enjoyed listening to the show. A lot of great laughs with Frank. He would just, like I said, he would just chime in with something that if it didn't make you laugh, you weren't paying attention. I mean, it was that good of stuff. And the one thing I can say, TC, first of all, I want to thank you again for the other night. TC hosted an event. We went out to Twin Peaks, one of Frank's favorite places, and I definitely know why, but I won't talk a great deal about that on the air. And you can see the board that TC had up. We all got to write a little note on the board. And just a lot of us getting to talk about and reminisce about Frank. But TC, in closing with you today, I'll say this, that right now, if Frank could come down, I know that he would smack me with something like, dude, why did you spend so much time on me on the show? Frank was not a guy about accolades and about being in front of anything. Frank did this out of the love of his heart. Frank was a sports junkie and loved what he did as much as anyone I've ever met in this industry. And he'd be so uncomfortable, TC. Would he not? Just what would Frank say if he knew I was doing this?
He would be totally embarrassed. And the same thing with me too. When we did the tribute, when we had yourself and so many other people that chimed in last week just to say a few words about him. He'd be embarrassed. And even the time when he was in the hospital, and even when he left the hospital to come back home, the last few weeks of his life, he said over and over, he goes, I am just amazed that I'm having this outpouring of love and support. And he goes, frankly, I'm a little bit embarrassed because I don't know how to handle that. Because like you said, he was a guy who was, kind of to himself, didn't open himself up much. But again, if you were in his circle, I mean, he was fantastic. But going back to, the comedic approach. I mean, he had the comedic one-liners all the time. And that was what's so beautiful. It just made you laugh. And we had, such a great time with all of that. But no, fun-loving guy, was going to do his thing his own way. And nobody faulted, for him for that. I mean, whether he was, ranting and raving about something, running around the studio if some equipment didn't work and he was going ballistic, we would just say, well, that's Frank. And then when it came, time to deliver his witty one-liners, well, there's Frank at his finest. Again, just a genuine guy, a great guy. And in parting, Brian, I'll say this again, I got to spend just about every day with him for the past, 2-3 years. And it was a joy because he was just a fun-loving guy that had the biggest heart that anybody could ever imagine. This guy went down to the blood bank sometimes multiple times in a week to give blood. And if you needed something, he was there for you. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about Frank Harnish, Ballpark Frank, VGK Frank, is he had the biggest heart in the world.
He really did. He is TC Martin, the TC Martin Show. Catch him Monday through Friday, 2 to 4. TCMartin.com, at TCMartin21. Follow him on Twitter. You can also hear him locally here in Las Vegas on 1400 AM KSHP. TC, always appreciate you. Look forward to having you on again soon, and keep doing great stuff. And man, look at the background, Spence. Why does his background look so much better than mine, for God's sakes? We appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Take care, guys.
Absolutely. Let's transition over to I think C Win. We got him up on here as well, and I wanted to talk next about and see, of course, joining us last week. We talked a lot about Frank Harnish. I'm not going to give Frank another 30 seconds of airtime because if I do dead air and do that with Frank, and if he can, he'll come back and he'll haunt me. I know he will. So I'm going to stop right there. We'll move on to UNLV basketball. Something pleasurable because yesterday, Chris, was a really cool opportunity for both of us. You know, we went and saw the UNLV Running Rebels play Hartford at Michelob Ultra Arena at the Mandalay Bay, and we got to sit at the scorer's table, something you don't always get to do, but because it was kind of a large pace and the scorer's table stretched the entire length of the floor, there were like 4 empty seats over by the Hartford bench. So I had sat there the first half, went and got you and Brian Shapiro, and David came over with us as well. We ended up sitting there. And I told you guys before you came over, I sat there because I had heard that the Hartford coach, John Gallagher, was an entertaining guy. And I told you guys you're going to love him. I don't know what your thoughts were when I first said that to you, but after about 3 minutes of sitting in the seat in the second half, you're like, wow, you were 100% right. How great was it watching that UNLV game yesterday?
Yeah, first off, Brian, great to be on with you and Wiz and Mags and the guys. Look, yeah, it was a unique experience, right, Brian? Because we get a chance to cover UNLV basketball, obviously, for years. And because they moved over to the Michelob Ultra Arena because the rodeo's in town, obviously it's very liberal as far as the seating, right? Whether it's the media, whether it's the fans, you know, there's just all kinds of places available. So Brian Feldman, he gets the catbird seat for the first half. He's right there next to the coaching staff of the Hartford Hawks. So myself, of course, you mentioned, and the other guys, we mosey on over and we're like, you know what, I want to see what this is going to be all about here in the second half. And you mentioned, of course, John Gallagher, the coach of Hartford, a guy who came up as a player, played at St. Joe's actually with Delonte West and Jameer Nelson under Phil Martelli, the legendary coach there. So I was kind of expecting him to be animated, but it was quite the experience, to say the least. All kinds of profanity laced developing situations going on, you know. I mean, and Brian, when you say we were right there, like normal people out there are thinking, you know what? Yeah, they're probably, you know, a row back or whatever, or maybe a couple rows back behind the bench. No, Brian, you and I were right there. Like I could reach out and grab Gallagher at any time that I wanted to, right there on the bench. It was crazy. And so we heard everything. We heard everything from, you know, his correspondence with the officials, obviously his players and his assistant coaches. You're right there. Not necessarily experience that you normally get. And John Gallagher did not disappoint. Let's put it that way. We're all here in the Mountain West Conference, obviously covering UNLV. It's unfortunate that we're not going to be able to get a chance to experience the John Gallagher experience game in and game out because, of course, he's in the America East Conference with Hartford. But yeah, it was very memorable. Let's put it that way, unique, especially from a coach who was so affable. We talked about Frank, Ballpark Frank, obviously, right? So after the game, everybody out there, right? After they lost by 20 points to UNLV, John Gallagher turns around to us sitting there at the scorer's table. He's like, "Hey, how you guys doing? What's going on?" little chatter back and forth after the game. Getting a little small talk in, and we conversed with him. We talked about how he seemed a lot like a young Larry Eustace, that kind of coach, a fiery guy, who's going to be entertaining to watch for years to come. He was he's in a tough spot there as a team that is 1-8 on the season, but I don't think there's any question he's a guy that will probably get that program turned around. But as you pointed out, Brian, it was a fun, unique type of experience on a Saturday afternoon down at Michelob Ultra Arena for Rebels Hawks.
Well, it is, and they won they won the American East tournament last year. Went to the NCAA, which was really cool for him. But as Chris said, he could have reached over and tapped us and had us go into the scorer's table. We were sitting as close to the players, and it was really cool. What's funny is you mentioned the profanities, and meanwhile, his good luck charm, he keeps reaching in his pocket and pulling out a rosary. Spencer, I think he got us some video that I took at the game of him actually reaching in his pocket, and meanwhile, he'd swear there'd be 6 F-bombs dropped, and then he reached in the pocket and grabbed the rosary, and it was really cool. Spencer, I don't know if you can roll that. that kind of gives you an idea of where Chris and I were sitting, but that was his rosary. He kept pulling it out, and well, maybe they would have lost by 50 if he didn't have the rosary. Who knows? But it was really cool to witness that. And one of the greatest one-liners, Chris, that all of us just busted out. So, anyways, Hamilton went off. He had 32 points. Great game for him and Donovan Williams. As I said, 61 points between the two of them, 3 points between the two of them. Over 2/3 of the team scoring, over 95 points UNLV scored, which was really cool. But those two really went off. And at one point, Hamilton hits this 3-pointer, and he kind of got open on the perimeter. And you see Gallagher yell out to him. He goes, "You're making him look like an NBA star when I wouldn't even take him in a pickup game." And we just busted out laughing. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, none of us believe that. We know Gallagher would probably pick him first in a pickup game, but in the same respect, what a great cliche. And just the way he kept going on, it was so entertaining. It was worth the price of admission. And what a great opportunity. Sometimes we get opportunities like that, Chris, and that's what I do this for, is the opportunity to get that close and really get to know the person as outside of it. Who I just had heard John Gallagher was a very animated guy, so I was hoping I could get close to him, and I did, and he was so much better than I expected. I hope he's been there for a long time. I hope he gets some recognition, because maybe he's figured it out. And I think, you look at his fire and his enthusiasm for the game. He looks like a guy that could coach at the highest collegiate level, I think.
Oh, there's no question about it. And you talked about, kind of his approach, right, and his attitude. They lost by 20 to UNLV, right? And he was able to still be someone who was, I don't want to say in a good mood. I think he's just eternally in a good mood. But to have the back and forth and the banter with us after the game, after you just got whacked like that by UNLV and gave up 95 points in that game, that was kind of interesting to see. Let's put it that way. And you mentioned it, Brian. Look, it was not something I expected. Let's put it that way. When I went to the game at noon, okay, at Michelob Ultra Arena here in Vegas for the Hartford UNLV Running Rebels game, that was not an experience I expected. So that was kind of cool to be a part of.
No, it really wasn't, Chris. Not that we made the segment about the Hartford Hawks. UNLV yesterday, a game they should have won. They won by 20. But to see them score 95 points, no question, Donovan Williams, what a great find in the portal to get a guy like him from a big program to come to UNLV. And this guy's going to get some looks. I saw some real talent. We'll put it this way. I don't know that Donovan Williams will be an NBA player, but put it this way. He's got a future in Europe. This guy will be a professional basketball player, if not here, overseas, and we'll make some money at that. And of course, Chris, the head scratcher is every now and again we see Bryce Hamilton make an absolute NBA all-star move, and then he disappears. And the consistency is a concern. It's a concern at this level and a concern at the other level. His ability and talent is no concern of mine whatsoever. It is keeping that motor running for the full 40 minutes of a basketball game. If Bryce Hamilton can do that with the complementary players that they have, and Jordan McCabe can stop trying to throw these ridiculous alley-oops and just play point guard and stop trying to be special, and we don't need a YouTube sensation at point guard. UNLV needs a guy that can distribute the basketball and hit the perimeter jump shot and play some defense, and those are the things I think he needs to focus on. But again, back to Bryce Hamilton, if he can play with consistency, Chris, 40 minutes, and the complementary players like Williams, and again, we got to see Royce Ham Jr. play better, but UNLV is a team that could, surprise some teams in the Mountain West Conference this year.
Absolutely. And you talked about the plays there in the second half. And I brought that question up to Coach Kruger after the game. And he kind of brushed it off a little bit, saying, look, we're just trying to have fun. And it's fine if they complete the play, but if it doesn't work, that's where it comes down and ends up looking like the hot dog play, right? And the one the unnecessary one that you don't need. But that being said, it was pretty impressive offensive performance, almost putting a 100 spot up there. You talked about Bryce Hamilton, obviously, and Williams, both offensively explosive games. And you're absolutely right. When it comes to Bryce Hamilton, there are points out there where he makes plays that you look at him, you say, you know what? That's an NBA guy, right? That's a guy that's going to be playing at the next level. It's just a matter of him kind of harnessing that and consistently playing that way. especially on the offensive end. So, but you got to be happy if you're Coach Kruger and his staff that they're able to put some points up like that. Yes, it was the last 2 games against the likes of Seattle and Hartford, and it's going to get tougher going along as we get into conference play here. But that being said, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic out there if you're a running Rebel fan for this team here in 2021-22.
He is Chris Wynn. You can follow him on Twitter at Christian Wynn, and that is Wynn with 2 N's and with an I, not a Y. Chris, always appreciate joining the show and, talking about the Rebels and what's coming up. They've got 2 more games that they should win both these games. And then they start Mountain West Conference play, and it's going to be tough. And that's what I asked Coach at the end of the press conference yesterday is what this team, like what he wants to focus on and what he thinks the biggest areas of improvement will be. And we have that. We have that right now.
Coach, a couple games left before the Mountain West schedule starts. Your biggest areas of focus and concern leading up to the Mountain West Conference getting started.
Yeah, our big area of focus, I think, is really just going to be these last couple games, just to continue to show the guys what works. When they're in a stance and ready, and their hands are out, and they're pointing and they're talking, they can be really good. And then when they're not, we can struggle.
Yeah, and that's really it in a nutshell. He's 100%. When they're good and they're on, Chris, this team, and we saw that against Wichita State. That game really showed to me, out of all the games they've played so far, the potential of this team when their point guard, Jordan McCabe, plays well. We saw some incredible passes in that Wichita State game, a behind-the-back pass and a three-quarter court pass that only the best can make. So we know the ability is there, but there's got to be consistency. But again, they play like that night in and night out, and Coach Kruger can find a way to push the right buttons on this team. I'm not going to say the sky's the limit. That would be ridiculous. That would be like when Caleb Herring said that the defense of UNLV was playing lights out. And I said the only time you say lights out when you talk about UNLV football is when they turn the lights out in the stadium. But the truth of the matter is this team can, I think, compete with anybody in the Mountain West on a game-to-game basis if they play their best basketball. And I'll tell you what, come tournament time, if this team, all these players that we see, they've got a hell of a freshman that didn't play in the first half, by the way, and Coach Kruger wouldn't talk about that. It was a disciplinary thing. But the point is, the majority of these guys, if they all play together and the top echelon talent like Williams and Hamilton play their best, this team could surprise. And, I wouldn't, how far could they go in the Mountain West tournament? Well, let's see how they do this year. But I am impressed, Chris. I really am. And I really like the philosophy and I like the presence of Coach Kevin Kruger. I think that this guy can create a new culture here at UNLV given time, and obviously as they start to stipend college athletes, given the wherewithal to do that.
Yeah, and I think what we kind of, I don't want to say ignore, but we kind of look past is that Kevin Kruger is still, obviously relatively young in his head coaching career. Kevin's still trying to figure out what he's going to be as a head coach for this team. And you brought up, of course, Bryce Hamilton, obviously Williams. They're probably going to be the offensive anchors of this team. You expect Hand to be a solid double guy for this team moving forward. And McCabe and the rest of the supporting cast, whether it's Josh Baker and some of these other guys, are going to have to contribute, Brian, to your point as to whether or not they're going to be a real contender in the Mountain West, right? You're going to have to get those other guys going. They're on any given night. You're not going to get the 30-plus out of a Bryce Hamilton. You're not going to get a monstrous offensive performance out of Williams. So you're going to need some of these other guys to step up. And they have the guys that are absolutely capable of doing it. And it starts with McCabe. It starts with Josh and these other guys to, find a way where they can pick and choose and get their spots where they end up being big time factors for this team moving forward.
I agree 100%. And the guy we were talking about, the freshman, Keyshawn Gilbert, remember that name. Yeah. He's a true freshman. And this kid, the one thing I love about him, yes, he can do the offensive stuff, but he can play defense. And defense isn't a word you talk a lot about in UNLV, talking football or basketball. Hey, let's be real. That's an area that's been lacking. And the bottom line is one of the oldest cliches in sports, defense wins championship. Keyshawn Gilbert is a two-way player for UNLV. And as he moves on in his career, this guy in 3 years from now will be the the star of this basketball team. I truly believe that. He is Chris Wynn again, at Christian Wynn. Follow him on Twitter. Chris is all over the place. You can hear him many times on different shows in Las Vegas. Appreciate you, Chris.
Hey, have a great Sunday, everybody. Enjoy it. It's loaded up again. Sports everywhere.
Can't wait. The Raiders starting soon. Time for Fact This.
Fact This. If you don't like the facts, take your ass back to bed. Fact This.
After last night's game at the Philadelphia 76ers, Steph Curry needs 7 3-point baskets to break Ray Allen's all-time NBA record of 2,973. This will more than likely happen this week against the Pacers, Magnum's Knicks, or the Celtics. My question, aside from being the greatest long-range shooter of all time, Wiz, I'll ask you first, where does he rank amongst the greatest players of all time?
He's a very hard player to judge because we know in basketball, whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins, right? And Steph Curry is very good at putting the ball in the hoop, but he is the greatest shooter of all time, not disputable. Ray Allen can say whatever he wants about it. Oh, it's hard to judge. No, he's the best shooter that's ever touched the court. But you got to look at the other areas of his game. He's a good passer, not a great defender. He doesn't seem to make the plays that the all-time greats do. So he's somewhere in the top 10, but I don't think he's at the very top 5 of my list. Somewhere in the top 10.
I think that's a really good assessment, Spencer. I think if I was to pick an NBA top 5 team on the court, he wouldn't be there. There's no chance he would be one of the top 5. As good as he is, not that he wouldn't be on the bench if I've got 12 players, he's going to be on that team. But I don't know that he would be in the top 5. I mean, I'm looking at my backcourt. I probably got Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan back there at guards. I probably move Michael Jordan up to small forward and put Isaiah Thomas back there. I'm partial, but I mean, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the center. You got Wilt Chamberlain. You got a lot of guys to consider, but Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time, no question about that, about to become the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. When it comes to a perimeter game, not many better than Steph. The problem with Steph and the knock on him always has been he can't cover the best player on the other team. He's not going to be put on that guy because he is not a great on-ball defender. He's just not, and that's always been a knock on Steph. But you know what? Will I take him and start him at guard on my team any day of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you name the day? He is that good. But again, the greatest of all time, top 10, top 12, yeah, I'll say so. Top 5, no way. That's just where I'm going.
The one thing you can say about Steph Curry, and I'm not trying to undermine him at all, is that he, other than probably Michael Jordan, he influences the way the game is played probably more than anyone else in history. You have to make your entire game plan around making his life as tough as possible. And very, very few players we've ever seen on the court you have to do that for.
Well, Joel Embiid said yesterday he's not doing it in Philadelphia, and they really played him tough. They did exactly what you said, Spencer. They were denying Steph Curry left and right, and ultimately Philadelphia ran away with it in the fourth quarter, but they were just denied 3 of 14 from the field yesterday, or I should say from three-point land yesterday. He scored 18 points in the game, but Steph Curry, man, is a lot of fun to watch. And what I'll say about Steph Curry is he revolutionized the NBA, because now it is, since he has come into the game, everybody, and I mean everybody, is trying to shoot three-pointers. He really has, again, changed the culture of the NBA to making it a perimeter basketball game. And Steph Curry's a big reason it is that right now, and that the perimeter shot is such a special part of what the NBA is today. So, but greatest of all time, again, I'll say top 12, top 5, no way. I'm not going to go there. Let's quickly get to the bone, Spencer, and talking about the Las Vegas Raiders. Before we do that real quickly, I want to say one other fact, and I want to get this out before I run out of time on the show. Fact. Detroit Lions fans, I'm disgusted with you. All my friends in Detroit, I'm disgusted with you. What are you glorifying one win for and glorifying Dan Campbell for? Hey, Dan Campbell did something that anyone is going to do based on the Oxford, what happened at Oxford High School. He did the right thing. It was wonderful what he did. I'm glad people called attention, but trust me, anybody that would have been the head coach of the Lions would have done the same thing. It's kind of an obligation. Michigan State, you saw everyone do it, okay? So, he's a lousy coach, and one win, you know what that win does? It takes the crap off the shinola because now everybody has done talking about the Detroit Lions. We needed them to stay in the news. We needed them to go without a win this season, so everyone kept talking about them, and people would start understanding they've won one playoff game in the Super Bowl era. I'm tired of having these rants, but please don't glorify one win in Detroit. Trust me, it would have been better for them to lose every game with that lousy tie against the Steelers, because then Sheila Hempford would have more problems, and which be, again, having everyone talking about selling the team. Now the one win, now no one has to talk about the Lions anymore. They got their one win. Stop it. Please don't glorify a win. They're garbage, and they need to change the culture, and the culture starts at the top. Sheila Hempford, sell the damn football team, or Ford Hemp, whatever the hell. All right, enough of that. The Bones, we only got a few minutes, Spencer. Probably one of the biggest games. Well, I know for us, it starts at 10 o'clock today in Kansas City. Chiefs on a major roll, as we know. The Chiefs started slow. They've won 5 in a row, 6 of their last 7 games. The Raiders going in the other direction, 1-4 in their last 5 games. This is going to be a tough road to haul, but the Raiders play the Chiefs well. It's an ancient rivalry. Any chance today they win this game?
There is a chance, and I actually think they will win. My bold prediction. It's so funny. Everyone knows I'm a diehard Raiders fan, so they expect me to come on and just be so mad. But here's the thing about the Raiders. They're not a bad football team, and that's actually kind of exciting to say. For the first time in probably 18 years, this is a decent football team, but they're just okay, and that's the problem. They're very middle of the road, and they lose to the Washington football team, and they could beat the Chiefs today. We know that. Hopefully next year all this stuff gets cleared up. We know all the the off the field issues that they've had this season, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But this is a division rivalry. Anything can happen. It doesn't matter how bad the Raiders are against any team in the AFC West. They can win anytime, and the same goes for every AFC West opponent too.
Well said, Spence. But and I will say that to me, the big thing with the Raiders, and I don't know his health, but as much as I heard Foster Moreau and everyone glorify, hey, this is a great backup tight end, he might be. And Foster Moreau's a tough guy. He understands football. He's got a high football IQ, but make no mistake. I mean, Darren Waller is one of the top 3 tight ends in the National Football League when he's healthy. I don't know that as much as I love Kelsey and Kittle and Andrews, I don't know that I wouldn't take Waller first when he's healthy. That's how good I think he is. He's a game changer. And when you don't have him in there, it puts so much more pressure on Derek Carr right now with his depleted skill players at the wideout position. Darren Waller's just gigantic, and I don't know, did you hear if he's playing today or not? I know that he practiced a little bit. I don't know whether he was playing. Spencer's looking it up right now as we run out of time, but I think he's going to be key. A couple of other games while Spencer looks for that are huge today. Baltimore and Cleveland should be a great game in Cleveland. I'm looking forward to that one. The Cowboys at the Washington football team. I think the winner of that game is going to win the NFC East. It'll probably be Dallas. And the 49ers at the Bengals, another good game. The 49ers are playing really good football. Their defense is getting healthy. Really good running game is always 6-6 against 7-5 Bengals. The game of the day, the Bills at Tampa Bay. The Bills looking to rebound, and Tampa Bay looking to kind of find stride, although they keep winning, of course, Tom Brady. And the best game of the week, again, tomorrow night, the Rams, the Cardinals. Last thing I'll say, hey, how about Juliana Pena? She took down the Lioness, submitted her in the second round, and that is, of course, Amanda Nunes goes down last night in the UFC. Really, really surprised. Shocked the world, shocked me. Good fight. We got to have the Sports Nistron soon. Cassandra Cousineau, maybe next week we'll get a hold of her to talk about that. I'm sure she was there, and I'll have something to say. Listen, we're out of time. I want to thank T.C. Martin, C. Wynn for joining the show. As always, Spencer the Wiz Ostrowski, and back in studio, Chris Magnum Chapman. Couldn't do it without you. Appreciate all you guys. Next week, same time, same place. A special guest joining the show next week. I'm not going to mention him now, but you'll know him. And of course, again, I'm going to also see if we can get Cassandra Cousineau, the Sports Nistron, to talk about the end of an era, and that is Amanda Nunes. Maybe not the end of an era, but the end of her reign as the champ. We're out of time. We'll see you. Bye-bye.